Hello everyone and welcome back to Little Quilter. Today we are going to be continuing work on the Kite in a Square quilt behind me. So I've been working on this quilt for a little bit and we are now ready to do the second design. So I've done one different design already on this quilt and I am now going to do a second one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the design that we're going to do and then we'll get to quilting. Alright everybody, so we're going to do a quick drawing here of the design that I'm going to do on this. And let me just, okay, there we go. Let me check my pin here. I'm going to make sure the stroke line is big enough for you guys. I think that's a pretty decent size. So, the thought process that I had for this one was I just wanted to do something that was not curved, which is a bit of a, I guess it's a bit of a, something against what I normally would do, right? So normally whenever I am quilting, one of the rules, and this was a rule that I think I heard Angela Walters say, which her rule was that just that if she did something straight line in a square or in a part of a square, then the next thing that she would do next to it would be to do something that was curved. And so generally I have tried to do that as well because, well, honestly, it just looks better, right? So when you have, and it also helps to separate things out. So when you have different sort of, a straight line and then you have something curved, it separates those pieces out. Now, sometimes you don't want to separate those things out, and if that's the case, then certainly that's fine. But, most of us, as we're quilting through something, you're highlighting something or you're just doing a design and you don't want all of your designs to just mush together into one big blob. That would be, to me, that's the purpose of a background design, right? So if you're doing like the design that I did on the red and white sampler quilt, that would be the purpose of that, right? Is just to have the same background on everything. Now, on this quilt, that was a bad line. Okay, so on this quilt, actually when I do this, I will not be doing this bottom line right here that I am drawing because my throat space really only allows from here, and it does go down here some, but it's only to like here, so I can't really finish, anything below this. I could probably scooch it down a little bit, but it's just easier to do this. And then on the next pass, whenever I roll the quilt up, I will do more and finish that little bit. So thinking about what I had been doing, I decided to kind of mirror the design of the kite blocks that I've been doing, right? But in a little bit of a different style. So I did the same outline because I think it's nice to keep that consistency between all of the blocks. So where I'm doing this design right here, I've got this consistent pattern where I've got these perpendicular lines echoing, well, I guess they're not perpendicular, parallel lines echoing the diamond design, right? So I wanted to keep that going. I think it's just nice for that consistency. And then I decided to mirror the kite squares by putting in these horizontal lines or vertical, depending on which part of the quilt you're looking at, just to give it a little bit of a difference. Okay, so we'll finish doing this side. There really wasn't a ton to talk about with this design because it is a pretty simple design. And sometimes that's okay. You know, I think sometimes we get really caught up in the idea of doing something that is really intricate or really detailed, but there's a lot going on in this quilt, and having something that's just really, you know, a bunch of really minute detail is probably going to get lost, in all honesty, at the end of the day. So that's why I kind of kept it a little bit simple here. You know, I do think these white areas, you know, like really stand out more than the design in the kite blocks, right? So these get a little bit more lost in them, which in some ways is fine. So what I decided to do for this, and I'm going to do it on this one right here just to show you, but I decided to do more of an outline. And I'm saying this one right here because I think it'll show up pretty well on this blue, but I think it's going to be really hard for you guys to see it on the dark purple. And so that's something that if you're drawing this in Procreate and you've got a really dark quilt, and maybe I can show you, you can remember that you can always change the color of your line so that you can see it easier. I like to have a fairly thick line on mine just so that I can see it. Obviously, whenever you do whenever you're actually sewing, for me, it's more of just as long as I can fit the design into the block that I'm wanting to do, then I don't get too concerned by the thickness of the line. So I just want to be able to see what I'm doing whenever I'm pulling up this quilt to say, okay, what am I quilting on this block? All right, so basically echoed the same design. I feel like this is a really echoed design of the kite block here. And then what I decided to do was really not to do much more. So I'm just going to take a line and draw it straight down the center here. And you can see sometimes this is where in quilting you might go to the first half and then progress to go outward here, rather than just drawing a whole line down the center like I was doing originally. Now, the other thing I want to note here is another great tool to use Procreate for is to kind of plan out your design, but also it's great to sort of figure out how you're going to sew this so that you don't have to pick up or start and stop your sewing machine. So that's a thought that you guys might use this for, is to sort of design out, basically, am I going to go, this is the first stitch, okay, I'm going to go back up, that's my second stitch, and so on and so forth, so that you can then do the entire quilt without having to pick that up. I'm really bad at doing that. I just kind of forget that when I'm designing, but that is definitely a tool that you could use this for if you're looking for how do I want to quilt this without having to start and stop. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I know that was a little bit different than what I've done in the past. Usually I just do a time lapse and showing you all, but I know there were a number of people that really liked to see, I guess, the thought process behind drawing this. Obviously this was a pretty simple block, but now that you've seen the design, I'm going to go ahead and jump into actually quilting it. So let's do that. Alright, everybody, that is that block finished. I know it's not a very punchy block with a lot of big designs in it. It's a fairly simple one, but again, working with the quilt design that we have and the fabric that we have, there's just a lot going on. And so I think this is just going to add a really fun look to the back of the quilt, and not something that I'm looking to really like pop out for the most part on the front of the quilt. So as always, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you again next time, and have a great day. Thanks.